my God, why have you forsaken me?" Just sit with those words for a second. It's raw, isn't it? It is desperate. It's deeply, undeniably human. Before we even get into what we're looking at today, I really want you to feel the incredible emotional stakes of this ancient text. We're dealing with profound questions here: ultimate survival, total abandonment, and the search for meaning.
Welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here today. In this Explainer, we're going to impartially unpack the profound emotional depth and poetic imagery found in the first 78 chapters of the Book of Psalms. We're going to treat this as a true psychological and emotional journey right through the human condition. We'll explore exactly how these ancient writers process the absolute extremes of life. Literally everything from crushing despair to transcendent joy, all through song and poetry. It's a fascinating look at how humanity has handled existential questions for thousands of years. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The Two Paths, Setting the Moral Universe. Okay, let's dive into this, because right out of the gate in Chapter 1, the text immediately establishes a binary worldview.
Before the writers take us on a roller coaster of human emotion, they first set up a moral universe to act as our compass. To establish the stakes of this journey, they visually define the ideal binary of good and evil using some incredibly vivid natural imagery. On one hand, we have the flourishing, righteous path, like a tree planted by streams of water. Now, in an ancient, arid climate, this imagery means absolutely everything. It implies deep roots, stability, and an endless source of nourishment regardless of external drought. Contrast that with the perishing wicked, like chaff that the wind blows away. Chaff is just the useless husk of the grain. It's weightless, it's temporary, and it's easily destroyed by the absolute slightest breeze. This striking text comparison really grounds the reader. It defines the ultimate goals and consequences of the human experience before the real trouble begins.
Section 2. Cries in the Darkness, the Messy Reality of Sorrow. Because here's the reality. The journey doesn't stay by those peaceful streams of water for very long. As we move forward, the text absolutely does not shy away from the dark turns of existential dread. It leans heavily into the messy realities of sorrow, betrayal, desperation, and near-death experiences. Just listen to this urgent, pleading question from Psalm 13. "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever?" Read that again. Think about the intense psychological weight in that repeating interrogative, "How long will you forget me?" The writers of these ancient songs are documenting moments where they feel completely, utterly abandoned in the darkness by their creator. They're giving a voice to the profound isolation that every single human being feels at some point, when life just seems completely unfair and silent. And this suffering isn't just philosophical, it's intensely physical. Psalm 22 reads, "I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. Dogs have surrounded me." The visceral physical toll described here is just staggering. It perfectly illustrates that universal human feeling of total collapse. Modern psychology tells us that the body keeps the score, right? And these ancient writers intuitively knew that. They're describing those exact moments when anxiety, pain, or grief become so overwhelming that they literally take over your somatic nervous system, leaving you feeling entirely unspooled.
Now, amidst all of these cries in the dark, you'll frequently see a specific word pop up in the text: sola. Scholars largely translate this ancient term to mean a pause or a musical interlude for deep reflection. Think about that for a second. The text is literally telling the ancient singer and us as readers to stop, pause, take a breath, and actually process the heavy, devastating emotions you just shared. It's built-in psychological reflection. The writers understood that trauma and grief can't just be rushed past. They have to be acknowledged and sat with before any real healing can begin.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the actual anatomy of a lament song. Notice the distinct pattern here. First, we see the raw despair. The writer cries out, "My soul is in anguish." But then, within the exact same song, they make an aggressive pivot. They declare, "The Lord has heard my weeping." They move from the crushing question of "Why have you forsaken me?" directly into "In the congregation I will praise you." It's an incredible cognitive shift. The writers don't just wallow in the darkness. They actively use the structure of the song to process their extreme despair and aggressively turn their minds toward hope. It's literally a survival mechanism encoded right into poetry.
Section 3. Finding Refuge and Strength. Anchors in the Storm. So, how exactly do they survive the darkness long enough to make that pivot?
Let's slow down our pace for a moment and transition from these raw laments into how these ancient writers conceptualized safety. Let's look at their anchors in the storm. When their world was entirely chaotic, they reached for the most solid, unbreakable language they could find to describe God as their refuge. We get a rapid-fire list of highly physical metaphors drawn primarily from chapters like Psalm 18. A rock, a fortress, a shield, a shepherd, a strong tower. When you're feeling poured out like water, you don't need abstract philosophy. You need a rock. You need a fortress. You need something tangible and immovable to tie yourself to while the storm rages around you.
And perhaps the most famous anchor of them all is this visual centerpiece from Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. Notice how we've come full circle from the chaotic storms back to the quiet waters mentioned in chapter 1. For an ancient agrarian audience, this wasn't just pretty poetry. It was the difference between life and death. A good shepherd meant security, provision, and guidance. This vivid, tranquil, pastoral imagery serves as the ultimate anchor for the human mind, offering a profound sense of peace amidst the unpredictable, terrifying storms of life.
Section 4. Songs of Ultimate Praise. Awe in the Universe. And this brilliantly illustrates the next major theme of the text.
Once refuge is found and survival is secured, the human spirit is suddenly free to look up. Let's transition our explainer back to triumphant praise and the sheer human capacity for wonder. Take Psalm 19, for example. The heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands. This ancient song captures one of the most universal, transcendent human experiences imaginable. I mean, we've all walked outside on a clear, dark night, looked up at the vastness of the stars, and felt a profound, silencing sense of awe and beauty. It's that exact moment where your mind expands beyond your daily anxieties and connects with the sheer majesty of the cosmos.
But looking at the cosmos also brings an intense sense of perspective, doesn't it? Continuing with this poetic imagery, Psalm 8 wrestles with our existential scale. When I consider your heavens, what is man that you are mindful of him, the Son of Man that you care for him? The writers are grappling with humanity's perceived insignificance when set against the massive, overwhelming backdrop of the universe. Yet the song ultimately marvels at a beautiful paradox. Despite our tiny footprint in the grand scheme of creation, we are still seen, valued, and deeply cared for. It's a pretty remarkable resolution to existential dread, for sure.
Section 5. Lessons for the Future. The Enduring Legacy. Let's move to chapter 78 and see how this builds toward our final takeaway.
As we bring our emotional journey to its conclusion, we shift our focus entirely away from the immediate present and toward historical reflection, memory, and instruction. The absolute crucial point here is the necessity of legacy. The text declares, "We will not hide them from their children. We will tell the next generation the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, his power, and the wonders he has done." The writers realize that this entire journey, the peaceful streams, the agonizing despair, the desperate search for a fortress, and the awe of the cosmos, none of it really matters if it dies with them. Passing these messy, beautiful stories and songs down to children yet to be born is the ultimate duty. It ensures that the next generation has the emotional and spiritual tools they need to survive their own storms.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer and leaves me with a final provocative question for you. How will you pass the stories of your own emotional journey on to the next generation? As you'll see, the Psalms show us that every single part of the human experience, the joyous and the absolutely devastating, is worth recording and sharing. The wisdom gained from your darkest nights can become a fortress for someone else. So what will your legacy be? Thank you so much for joining me as we explore this incredible ancient text today. Keep learning, keep reflecting, and I'll see you next time.